Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Wisdom Wednesday, where we have different speakers coming to inspire us, to empower us, and to teach us something to help us to self-manage our life. Today, we are going to talk about a very interesting topic because I have here a lot of you have talked about your relationship status in our group, and I understand how painful it can be. Know that a lot of us have been told that we should just snap out of it. However, somewhere in our brain, something is not aligned. So today's episode is about learning how to choose you, how to say no to the wrong relationship. And today I have an amazing speaker. Hi, Susan. Thank you so
Hello.
much for coming onto our show. Please tell us a little bit more about you.
Hello, Martha, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Oh my gosh, I don't know where to start about that. When it comes to relationships, you know what? Let's just go through and I'll pop up. As you ask questions, people can get to know me as we go through it because there's a lot of pieces. You get over 40, over 50, there's a lot of life to share, but there's pieces of it that I would love to share that I know that it would add value to your audience. The title Choose You, say no to the wrong relationships. It
Mm,
has to start with us, and
yes.
it has to start with us knowing who we are.
Mm,
And it's a journey. It's just a journey. I have been a coach for 30 years. I've worked with thousands of people across the globe, men and women, children,
mm,
professional athletes, professionals, you name it. I've had the pleasure of growing myself with it. I sort of think that when you're working with people, you grow with people, don't you? But relationships, life is all about people and relationships. And I think that as we go through this discussion, I can share lots of little nuggets of wisdom that will help your audience really that, oh, I can do that. Oh, I can do that. Oh my gosh, I connect with that. So that's my hope for today's session.
that is wonderful because I did a post today saying that a lot of the times that men will look for the people who are less than them. So a lot of the times that when we are in a situation, we find that our partner are not matching our status or our level. It is okay to let go and let someone else take your place. There's nothing worse than trying to fix someone, trying to actually correct someone or change someone. Man or woman, we don't like that. No one likes to be told what to do. That's just human behavior. So, in your experience, how do pattern of thought and behavior influenced by our brain chemistry affect our self-esteem in relationship?
Okay, so I guess to go back to the very beginning of it, our we our core belief and our belief. Let me share a little analogy that we use.
Mm,
Your brain is like the bridge, and the bridge needs to be strong, made of the right stuff, and going in the right direction.
mm,
The vehicle is your mind is the vehicle that takes you there, and that needs to be resilient, unstoppable. Your
mm,
belief is the engine that drives it. And that belief needs to be made up of parts that come together so that you're all working as one. And your passion and your purpose is the fuel that makes it all move. So
mm.
that's just a very simple visual of the connection between the brain and the mind.
Yes.
Also really important to know that your brain is two parts. Your
Yep.
brain is an organ. So the healthier the organ, the more genius the genius brain. So as an
Yes.
organ, it needs to be treated with the same respect as the rest of the body. And the
Mm,
healthier the organ, the higher thinker and the healthier, wealthier thinker the genius brain is. So
mm,
that's the very beginning piece. It really needs to be that it doesn't matter what we want to achieve in life, Martha. We have to have those
mm.
foundations and the fundamentals right, don't we? So
That's true.
that belief, those parts that all make up your brain, you think about all the parts that make up an engine, they make up your brain. We are given those parts, our core belief from the ages of 0 to 7. Known as the imprint stage. It's given to us by the people and the surroundings that we live by. So if a small child is brought up in an environment where there's a lot of negativity, a lot of fighting, a lot of abuse, a lot of limiting thinking, lack thinking. I mean, one of my programmings when I was growing up was find a rich guy and marry him, right? So when you think about some of the statements that you have been told to as a young child, and as you grow through that second stage of life, then it forms the parts of that engine that you then drives your life. And whatever that is, we've got a choice. We either ride with it and then sort of, I'm not going to say duplicate the same life, but you'll live with the same set of values that you were given when that imprint was put there. But one thing we know now is that even though the brain resists change, we now know that we can change it. And that's what's exciting about this conversation. So once that belief is set, then our behavior patterns are formed from that belief. So we've got all these parts of the brain, and our behaviors are formed from what we think. What's also really important to know, and I like to just give little simple sort of visuals and nutshells so they're easy to remember. Your brain likes to keep you safe and secure. It takes in very small pieces of information at one time. An overloaded brain, a confused brain shuts down. So always remember that. So keeping it very, very simple and clear. So even though we know the brain resists change, we now know that we can change it. So behavior patterns are formed by what we just repetitively do, right? So what the brain does is let's just talk about food, okay? Who loves food? I love food. I'm a real foodie. Looking and feeling better about yourself in life is a big chunk of it is what you put in your mouth. So you get into a pattern of thinking about food. I like food. I love food. I eat food when I feel this way. I eat food when I feel that way. So you get into a pattern of it. And once you get into that pattern, the brain goes, you know what? I'm just going to put that on default. I'm not going to think about that. But the more you repeat a certain behavior, the brain just puts it there. It shifts it, it locks in, and you'll set the mind around what that behavior is. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Your mindset is set in place by the repetitions of behavior. Set in, locked in. So how do you change a mindset? It's literally by unlocking what's been locked in, unlocking that behavior pattern and setting a new one. And that's the simplest way of describing it.
Yeah, I hear you, because like a lot of people think I can't. They keep using the word I can't live without him. I can't be alone. I can't do that. I can't do this. And I find that is just a limiting belief. There's a lot of things that we are capable of doing. Of course, there will be limitations as well of doing it. Still, we can find ourselves a way to get things done. And definitely that behavior patterns of what we do is what's going to determine. It's like that a baby learning to walk, it will take him a little while before that he can have his 2 feet on the ground and walking comfortably. Just like anyone that who's been separated, they have past trauma, they keep worrying about they're going to be hurt again. Of course, it's going to be not easy when we're going into another relationship. And when we are at what I call a desperate stage, that desperate thinking that, oh, if I don't find someone now, I'm already like, for me, it was like 40 and I was so scared about not finding someone. So I keep staying with the wrong right guy, those people that are dragging me along, not giving me what I'm looking for, and then we see the whole world as those wrong bad guy or the wrong guy, and having that mindset doesn't help us to see anything positive. And like what you said before, that we need to train our brain to see things differently. So how can we retrain our brain to prioritize our own well-being?
I use food as an example in the last question, because food is such a go-to place for feeling better when you're in a
Yes.
situation that is less than what you want it to be.
Yes.
You know, as you're talking, my brain is going boom, 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 boom with all these
Yeah.
little nuggets that I want to share with you. Training the brain is actually quite simple. Knowing what you want is the challenge, and knowing your value is the bigger one. Because training your brain simply
Ah.
means that you're putting the right information in. You've got to remember that all your brain does is store information. That's all it does, is it stores information. And if you're in a situation, in a negative relationship, an abusive relationship, a relationship that's just not working, you know, we mustn't assume that just because a relationship's not working, it's abusive. But relationships cannot work. The wrong relationship can be for a lot of reasons.
Yes.
But there are abusive relationships, there are dysfunctional relationships, there's relationships that come under numerous banners. But the big thing that you need to think about if you're listening to this is you need to know who you are. Who are you? What are your values? You need to know what your values are. Let me tell you a quick story. I
Yes.
was working with a coach once. His name was Peter. He was a young guy. I think he was about 28, but he was very wealthy. He knew what he wanted. And he started dating this girl, right? And he'd been dating her for about 6 months, but she was always sick. Would you like to go here? He was quite adventurous. He liked to do stuff, and she was always sick, always had something wrong with her. So he called her one day and he said, I like you, but I would like to have a relationship with somebody who is healthy. Decide to be healthy, and I'll continue dating you. Well, he didn't hear from her for 3 months. And then 3 months later, she called him and she said, I get it. I now am deciding to be healthy. But so two parts to that is that we cannot control what other people do, but he knew what he wanted. So he was not going to settle for less than having a girlfriend that was healthy. And I
Yes.
think that's the very first piece. Who are you? What do you
Yes.
want? What are your values? Identify what your personal values are. What is important to you? Now, your values are things like, you know, the standards you want to live by, integrity, you know, honesty, you know, health and fitness. Do you like travel? Do you, you know, what do you like to do in the morning? What do you like to do in the evening? Think about the way you think about life, and then how you'd like to live your life.
Yes.
I always say, when I've just been seeing somebody for 6 months, actually, prior to that, you know, if I met somebody, I would say, I am not a 9-to-5er. I'm not somebody who goes to work at night, comes back at 5. I have a big vision. I'm an international speaker. My life is exactly as I want it to be. Now, if you're looking for a woman who's just going to cook your meals, have breakfast, go to work, come home, have dinner, drink wine, watch TV, I'm not that girl. And you have to own it. So know who you are, know how you want to live your life, and then you
Yes.
align that with the relationship that's going to fit with that. Here's
Yes.
the thing: never compromise your values to get into a relationship, but we have to learn how to compromise once we're in it.
Yes. Oh, wow. That is just a gold piece in there, because
Yeah.
I see a lot of lady that who have standards, and sometimes that they don't realize that when you find someone, you will be able to see other four. Same as you, first 3 months, let's say honeymoon period, we always try to put our best foot out. After that, we will have that moment of showing our reality. So are we going to be able to accept them? And I often said that, okay, it's just like, for example, my own partner, he like, you know, he's not the cleanest person in the world. So what do I do with that when I see him like having food dropping onto the floor while he's eating? Like, he's a messy eater. So what do I do? Do I reject him on that, or do I look at other stuff? Do I compromise on that? As long as he's pick it up, and I'm going to be fine with it.
Do you know what the secret to that is? And my grandmother told me this, that it's very
Uh,
easy to love what you like about a person. We
mm.
have to know that we can live with what we don't like about them.
Oh, that's gold. That is a gold
Yeah?
piece of information. I love that. I love that.
But to be able to live with these sets of standards, we have to know that we're worthy of it.
Yes.
We have to know that we're worthy of it. Otherwise, we compromise and we justify bad behavior. And even though we're not going, I'm not worthy of that, so I'm going to just make excuses for that, that unconscious programming, that belief that's driving you, is telling you that. Now, remember how I said that the engine is the belief and it's made up of parts? Well, we've got parts of our brain that are going, yay, you're worthy of it and you're awesome, and you know, you deserve love and happiness and all that stuff, and passion and desire and intimacy and all that exciting stuff that comes with a relationship. Then you've got the other parts that are going, you're not worthy, forget about it, you just deserve this crap. The thing is that both parts are wanting to keep you safe and secure. The happy part, let's call it, is seeing the bigger picture, seeing life totally fulfilled as being the only place to be. And the negative unhappy part wants to keep you in that safety zone, because remember, that was set there as your default setting as you were growing through life. Now, we can shift that, we can rewire that brain, and as I said, it's easy to do, but we can get in our own way. We can stand behind a lie, believing that we're not worthy. And here's just a few little tips around what to do about that. Never react. Never, ever react. When you're in a situation where you can feel that energy shifting and that conflict, or you know, you're getting hit with maybe abusive or negative language, never react. Stay calm and still. The calmer and stiller you practice, the less your brain is going to go, because when your brain gets really frazzled and stressed, you then react emotionally. And when you react emotionally, you're going to have a whole bunch of negative stuff going on. So just be calm, be still, and even walk away, go make a cup of tea, sit quietly, think about what the conversation or the situation's about. And it's amazing how you can see more clearly when you do that.
Oh, I love it.
Yes, and look, this all takes practice, and I have to be honest that I've practiced it with partners and teenagers. So you know, it does take practice, but it does work. Here's another thing that works is if you're, and I've always tried to remember this about myself. I've got 3 exes. 2 marriages, 1 partner, and people say to me, you know, what were your lessons from it? Well, I'm happy to say that I've grown from it, and I certainly know who I was, who I am now. I also know who my partners were and who they are now. I have respect for all 3 of them. Would I go back? No. But am I happy with the journeys that I've learned from them? Yes, because the one thing I always remembered is that there was a point in that relationship that I not only liked them, but I thought I loved them, or I did love them. And I think if we remember that we're in that relationship because at some point there was a connection, an attraction, a like, and or a love, then it softens where we're at that moment and helps us to reset and put a new perspective on where we're at. I know why I was with all my 3 partners. I also know why I'm single now. And it's really identifying what all that looks like for you. Be honest with yourself and be okay with opening up those layers so that you can get inside and identify who you are. How do you want to live your life? What sort of relationship do you want to have? And here's a big one, Martha. Do you trust the person that you're with? Now, I'm not talking about other men and women. I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about, do I trust that person that I'm going to be able to build the life that I want to live with that person?
Yes.
And I think that's a big one, right?
Yes, that is huge. Like, are we going to be able to trust them? And I do notice that a lot of women, including myself, that have the problem of trying to get the new guy to fix the last problem that the exes made. That's a huge one. So how does our brain play the role in we making our decisions, like in our relationship?
And that is a great one, because remember how I said that
Mm.
when you repeat something, the brain, it anchors it in there and it's there to stay. If you repeat something, the brain just goes. The brain is basically lazy. The brain
Yeah.
is a lazy brain, and it wants to keep you safe and secure. So whatever you do on repetition, it's going, well, I don't want to think about it. I'm just going to set it. Okay.
Yeah.
So it sets it. So if you're in a relationship that is dysfunctional and you're repeating patterns, while as you repeat those patterns, the brain is setting those patterns in place so they become unconscious. You don't have to think about what you're doing, you just react. And a great example of that is I'll use one of my relationships as an example. We had a company. It grew very quickly. It was very stressful. And my ex would come home, and even if he wasn't in a state of frazzle and negativity, I would react to it automatically. As soon as I heard that car in the driveway, my brain would go into like air mode, because I would expect him to walk in the door feeling frazzled and negative. But he may not. He may not walk in the door feeling frazzled and negative. He may have had a great day and walk in with a big smile on his face. But because there'd been a pattern, a repetitive pattern of him coming home feeling negative and frazzled, then that was anchored in place as the state of play. And as soon as I heard that car, it would fire that anchor, and my brain would straight away go into that place, and I would feel negative and frazzled myself.
I hear you, because I can see a lot of that from happening, even just we feeling it in our own life into it. And I'm like, wow, that is so true. And I love the fact that we're talking something a little bit different today, because we know that a lot of the time that when we talk about relationship, people talk about the heart, but they don't actually understand that it does come from our brain. It does come from our conscious and unconscious mind. So when we can master that, it will help us so greatly to move forward in the status that we are right now. Whether you're in pain, whether you're in sorrow, whether you're in grief, there is a way for us to trigger that in our brain to stop the pattern from happening, and getting that acknowledgement that, hey, this is what's happening. I need to do something different so I get a different result. So today's our conversation has just been so inspiring. And what we love to do is to have Susan to come back again on a webinar and to talk to us a bit more about how the brains work, how do we change our patterns, how do we change our behavior. And we would love to have you back again, Susan.
Oh my gosh, we've only just touched the lid on the box. We've got to take the lid off the box and get into that. I call it the magician's scarf, because the lid on the box is what we've done. We take the lid off, and then we bring out that magician's scarf, and the colors of the scarf is all the pieces that we can bring together so that we can help. And if I may just add one more thing, this works all the time. And it doesn't matter. I feel it works all the time. And it doesn't matter how you feel. Always ask yourself, what would love do now? And when you ask yourself that question, what would love do now, there's a shift in the whole workings of the brain and the heart and the body. It softens the energy, and you see things with a softer perspective. It can shift you from being angry and negative to like, almost immediately, what would love do now? So just to end on that note, because it is a very powerful question, and it can really shift an energy very, very quickly.
For our audience and listener, I would love to hear your feedback about what would love do now. So think about it and then write it out and give it to us in the comments so we can see how we can support you further to let your brain connect with your heart and help you to go into the next day with a smile. So thank you, Susan, once again for being on our show today. Thank you for all our listeners and viewers for joining us on Wisdom Wednesday. We look forward to see you again next week.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye for now.